information item D of the Planning Committee Report 11020A respecting staff reporting back on concerns and regulations respecting urban chickens be lifted from the information section.
Was it seconded, Councillor?
Councillor
Farr. On the lifting, all those in favour, opposed, motion's carried. Motion, please.
And the motion moved by myself, second by Councillor Farr, that the following be added as item 3 to the Planning Committee Report 11020A. And the wording is on page 5 of the report. Item A, B, and C. Item A is the staff report back by the end of the first quarter with a comprehensive report on the concerns and regulations required for urban chickens, taking into account the items that are talked about here, the number of chickens per household, coop distance restrictions, et cetera, et cetera. B, that staff fully study the financial and resource issues, including budgetary implications, licensing, registration, the costs of handling abandoned chickens, capital for accommodation of stray chickens, and a cost recovery model. And C, that staff seek more comprehensive input from public health with this report. And I'll just one more sentence to speak to the motion if I can. I actually met with staff the day before Planning Committee met and changed this motion from what Councillor Farr moved several months ago. Staff had been moving forward on preparing this report, and both municipal law enforcement and public health. And public health is happy to work with MLE on this, and they were working on it and moving ahead. So I think we're in good hands on the staff level, and they're planning on reporting back as was the original intention. What we're doing tonight is simply getting back on that track with the motion that I just read.
Okay. Councillor Ferguson and Councillor Farr.
We had a wholesome debate on this issue of planning, and there's lots of problems with urban chickens, whether it's around disease. The manure they create is quite ripe because it's very high in ammonium, which attracts rodents. Chickens do fly, and they're flying into neighbors' backyards. You think you have problems with dogs now. You get chickens, it's going to be even more complicated.
Okay, so we're talking to it's a referral motion, Councillor.
Yes. Yeah, I understand. Well, no, it's not a referral motion. The motion is to put back, ask staff to do the report. That's how I interpret it. Okay now, Mr. Chairman? Just, and we heard from the Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee, who are experts in this area, saying don't do it. So they don't support the concept of permitting urban chickens. Chickens only lay eggs for a prescribed period of time, generally about 1 year, and then they slow down and eventually stop. Farmers turn them over about every 12, 13 months. And then we're going to get into the pet limit bylaw because 2 are there, and they're not laying eggs anymore, and they become pets, and they go to 4, then 6. And then, you know, there's lots of other issues. But staff also pointed out to us this is going to be a lot of work putting this report together. And at the end of the day, we sensed at Planning Committee we weren't going to support it at the end. So why would we put staff through all this energy? And I see Marty's not here tonight. I don't know whether Tim can answer it or Dr. Richardson can answer it. How much staff time, what's the cost of putting this report together? And both from a bylaw perspective and from a public health perspective.
What's the cost of democracy? Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'm going to let Dr. Richardson speak, but we just had a small conversation before. We're going to need till the end of the third quarter to get this done. So we're not even close from our perspective with respect to understanding the implications. Marty mentioned this to me tonight, that in terms of, you know, the capital costs, if there's any impact with respect to our facilities. So I'll let Dr. Richardson speak.
Any idea how much staff time that would consume?
This is significant.
Okay, Dr. Richardson, through you, Mr. Chairman.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we have done a fair amount of the work in terms of getting things together for this, as Councillor McCaddy pointed out. We do need to have some more work to do in terms of the public health rule alone, and then the piece around the regulatory educational piece, and most of that work will be done by municipal bylaw enforcement. Again, as Mr. McCabe has said, and Sue, it's a significant piece of work. I know from the work we did on the smoke-free parks bylaw, it took us, you know, a good 18 months, 2 years to bring that all the way through and to do it well and do it properly. So I would say at least Q3 from our perspective before we can bring forward something.
Okay, and through you to Dr. Richardson. Can you get closer to the microphone because I can barely hear you? But the second part of this, it was reported by one of your staff, the Planning Committee, that when we first took a crack at this, health department was opposed to urban chickens because lots of health issues. And I understand that the health department may in fact be softening their positions with some significant restrictions. Or, you know, can you first of all explain why you changed your views, and then qualify what are the restrictions you're going to look for? Are there any showstoppers in those restrictions for individuals holding chickens because it would just be too prohibitive? So you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Richardson.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, in terms of the change in our position, you're quite right that we had initially advised that we didn't think this was a good idea from a public health perspective. There was a subsequent report done out of BC that comprehensively looked at the issues related to, sorry if I'm getting any closer, that comprehensively looked to the issues that are raised by urban chickens. And it outlines that there isn't good evidence, there aren't studies, there aren't evaluations that have been done in other areas to outline, you know, what the health risks and benefits are to urban chickens. But it does give a really good analysis of what the issues are and good ways to mitigate them. And that's when we changed our position and said, while we don't think that we don't think there's good evidence one way or the other to recommend whether there's urban chickens, but we do think there's things we can do to address the issues. The issues include everything from coop construction to the numbers of chickens to looking at animal husbandry, I can't say that word well, animal husbandry practices. Councillor Basuna can do better than I. You know, they expand beyond that to hygiene issues and those sorts of things. And so there's quite an extensive amount of work that Susan Harding-Cruz, who's the manager to my left, has done on this, and would still need to go forward to create an appropriate bylaw to address them. I'll just ask if Susan wants to add anything.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, we have been looking at the issues, and I guess from a public health standpoint, we want to be open-minded to what council may like to do as far as urban chickens are concerned, but we do want to look at the public health risks in context. We want to see whether or not the risk does exist, and what we still need to gather some more information. But saying an absolute no to urban chickens before, based on avian influenza concerns, is something that has changed for us. So I'd say that we still need to gather evidence to be able to really draft our recommendations for animal services to consider. We would be looking at things like, is free range a good idea or not, and what are the public health risks associated with that? We'd be looking at the manure. How are you going to dispose of that manure? Chickens make about, if you have 3 or 4 chickens, they make about 5 to 7 pounds of manure every week. So we have concerns about slaughter. We do have concerns, but we think they could be mitigated. We have to gather that information still.
So at the end of the day, if you do support it, you're going to put a lot of restrictions around it, which may, Mr. Chairman, make it prohibitive for an urban person to be able to meet those restrictions, be it setback, be it caging, be it roosting, and so on. But at the end of the day, I don't think we want chickens flying into other people's backyards, getting chased by their dogs. And you don't even want to think about that. As a person that grew up on a farm with chickens, they're not easy animals to manage. And it may sound great that you're generating your own chickens, but it comes with a lot of problems, being attracting rodents, being at health issues, being at odor issues. And here we got the experts now, the Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee, saying don't do it. And we're hearing staff say this is a tremendous amount of work to do this research. And at the end of the day, we're uneasy with it anyway. Why are we going to spend all that money and all that the precious staff resources to go ahead and do this? So I don't support the recognition. I like the resolution that came out of planning, which is simply to rescind this particular motion and shut this issue down once and for all. Thank you.
Councillor Whitehead.
Sure. I don't see, and I think it's properly lifted, but I never saw this issue as a pet issue. I saw this as a different issue in the context of people being able to provide fresh eggs in their home. Perhaps in some cases, fresh chicken. But I guess the concern I have, so having said that, and some of the things that have already been identified, it doesn't really fit the pet bylaw. In fact, it fits more of a licensing regulatory, regulated program, because we have to deal with all these issues. I'm telling you, if some neighbor gets influenza next door and dies because they're old age, then you got a problem. So that means it's going to have to be policed much heavier than any of our pet bylaws. So this is a whole, excuse the pun, a whole different animal. And so research and study would have to be done on it. So the question is there enough outcry from this community and demand from this community to move in that direction? I haven't heard the outcry. If I've heard the outcry, if it's, several people say, yeah, it's a great idea, we should do it, that's one thing. I haven't heard an outcry. And if there's not an outcry saying, well, this is a good thing, then why would we go through the exercise? And I guess that's where I hold back on. And it could change if, in fact, I heard from a lot of people saying, there's a great idea, we should pursue it. I haven't heard that, so there's no demand, and there's no real demand. Then why would we, again, go through the expense of going and providing this study and research, and also understanding that more than likely, this would have to be something that's heavily regulated. It means that there'll be inspections on a fairly regular basis and so forth. Really, is there that demand? And I don't think at this point we're there yet.
Councillor Farr.
Just trying to, it's going to take some time. We're just counting up all those people who've sent in their names in support of this objective. There's a massive petition out there. There's lots of folks that are interested, and a lot of them use a very good argument with respect to food security. And I appreciate that argument, particularly right here in the heart of the city. And I appreciate the progressive nature of this entire issue. I think clearly cities like New York City, Los Angeles also appreciate it, to the point where recently they brought back urban chicken coops. And they argued very well toward the issue of food security and appreciated what they were hearing from their constituents in these progressive cities, New York, Los Angeles, and others that were mentioned in that lengthy debate that was alluded to. I truly feel, and I've never said I want urban chicken coops, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I want to study. I was the guy who crafted this 3-point objective many, many months ago before it was rescinded by the councillor, who I appreciate, who's spent some time on the farm, and I hear everything he's saying, but I do believe that every concern that he has, with no disrespect to his history out there in the barn and in the fields, and the other councillor too, who has an extensive history in that area, I feel every one of those concerns can be mitigated. I really do, but we need to find out. And we were well on our way. Many, many weeks we were on our way. And we actually had discovered things from meetings that I had with Marty, having done discussions with Marty, meetings the good councillor from Ward 1 had with Board of Health, where we learned from public health that chickens are no more an issue in terms of hygiene and disease than cats and dogs, which we spent a bit of time on here tonight as well. We actually heard that at the last planning committee when this thing was rescinded, which was a close vote, I might add. It was 4-3. So it wasn't an overwhelming majority by any stretch. But the rodents issue, if you really read into it, you'll see that we're going to address that. We want to seal, like they do in the progressive cities that have urban chicken coops, the feed. That would reduce the rodents. The flying onto the fence and the dog next door kills the chicken. We're going to restrict the chicken from flight. I mean, those things were all being looked at. In these progressive cities, it's not too difficult, I think, for a lot of these areas where I believe we can mitigate the concerns. We just look at their models that are effective and progressive and work, in my opinion. I mean, but to not, just to get halfway and close the door, you knew, I mean, I was there with you for an hour and a half in that debate when it was pulled. And yes, I was mildly offended at first, and you can see I'm a little heated about it right now. I don't think it's right that we turned on this, considering all of the work that was done. It was a little, in my opinion, and with all due respect, disrespectful. Because even in the 3-point considerations, we talked about all the rooster regulation. We didn't want roosters. We talked about nuisance. We talked about hygiene. We talked about a cost recovery model. I've talked to Marty since many times, a few times, but I've talked to him about why can't we talk to someone who really wants to go forward forward with this very progressive idea because they have food security issues and they want to teach maybe their kids a little something about what it can be like taking care of your own nutrition on your own terms. What if they get a compliance from their neighbors, their abutting neighbors, and their neighbors in the back? Maybe we can go forward that way. Maybe that's part of what we can discuss here. And another thing I talked to Marty Hazel about, and you were all there at Planning Committee, and he agreed to it. I asked him point blank, Marty, is the Q1 too much, too close for you? Is that too hard a deadline to achieve all that we're asking? Because we're well aware there's much to look at here when it comes to urban chicken coops. And he said yes. He point blank said yes. And I said, how does Q2 sound? Q3? That's fine, as long as we get it done. And if you need to put it on the side of the desk, at the corner of the desk, or on a filing cabinet for a little while, that's fine too. But don't stop. My God, we're 6 weeks in, and we just turn it around like that. And trust me, I can't believe you're not hearing from folks, because I, every day, am hearing from folks that really are fighting very hard and want to stand up. Probably here tonight, you can see them say thank you. They want us to support them. They want to support the original 3-point motion from this. Respect them. Respect their food security. Respect that what they want to teach their kids. Thank you.
I know there's a desire, the Clerk's Department, to dial up the chicken dance, but we're just going to hold right here at the pressing time on that. So, Councillor Clark?
There's such a potential for so many puns and analogies. I have to tell you, the good councillor from Ward 2 was much more calm and relaxed when he had more hair. I'm not sure what happened and whether or not it was done specifically for the topic tonight, but his passion, I believe him in, and he truly does want to have the discussion. The reason the committee members, and it was something that Councilor Pursuit and I were really wrestling with, how do you deal with this? We ended up with a report from the Agricultural Advisory Committee indicating that they didn't support urban chickens. This is a body that we're supposed to, well, it's our body. We created it. We ask them for advice. They provide the advice. We get upset when we don't listen to them, and we get upset when we do listen to them. I feel for the committee. They offer their advice, and they do it on a voluntary basis. I can tell you that I have had a few emails from people supporting urban chickens. I also noted a number of the addresses, which were Toronto, Mississauga, and Oakville. United States, I got that one too. I don't make bylaws for people that live in other municipalities. I make bylaws for people that live in Hamilton. Proud. And I can tell you that in my ward and out and about in the last little while, the words that people were using to describe us for even contemplating allowing chickens in the urban area would be unparliamentary and inappropriate for this chamber. Folks out in the Hamilton area, and they are outspoken. I know in Stony Creek, they're very outspoken, and I love them for it, because that's how I know where they're coming from. There's far more of them that do not want urban chickens in their municipality than the few from outside of our municipality that think we should be more progressive like San Francisco and New York City. From my perspective at this particular time, this municipality, the residents in this municipality are not ready for urban chickens. It's that simple. It may come a time, 5, 10 years from now, that they may be ready, and there may be more folks that agree with it. But it is going to open up one heck of a war if we begin going down the road of allowing urban chickens in a community where the residents are not ready for it. Part of politics is making sure that you educate the public. You move people forward over time. You don't want to have a war up front over an issue. I understand very clearly what the councillors are saying. And part of me, I can understand where with food security and some of the concerns that people have about potential future events, they want to have their own food in their home, want to be able to produce their own food. That's why we have a lot of people that are doing even more farming in their own urban area. The amount of gardening for vegetables has risen dramatically. But I have to tell you with the greatest of respect to my colleagues, I have gone out of my way to talk to my constituents on this specific matter. And there is no support in my ward. I did not get one person in Stony Creek calling me saying, please do this. It makes sense. And I'm not going to share you some of the names that they called me if I proceeded to do it. So at this point, we're not ready for it, and I'm comfortable rescinding it at this point. Thank you.
So I'll go to Councillor Pasuta, then I'll go to Councillor McCaddy for closing comments, and then I'd like to go to the vote. No, I didn't. Okay. Councillor Pasuta, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Powers. And just can't wait to see the cartoon editorial section next few days. The dogs are around City Hall outside and the chickens showing out the window. On the pigeons on the roof. I don't know. This is serious stuff to me, all of this. Okay, so it's just a bit of a. I'm just wondering. We had the public delegations back in November, and there's a lot of people that came to it about chickens, urban chickens. And for some, it was a food security issue. You can fruit in your backyard. Other ones, they talked about their pets, the great pets. Our committee members remember that? They talked about pets, make great pets. So we just did an amendment tonight to limit 4 pets. They were their dogs or cats, but just pets, or whether they guinea pigs. It's 4 pets. Okay? Some people are going to want chickens as pets. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of people. At committee, Councillor Clark and I, we had discussions here by the chair about that we were going to look at this come the spring 2012, the urban chicken issue. And it was publicized that way. I had concerns about we were going to move forward with Councillor Ferguson's motion on it to rescind it. And I still have concerns, even though during the debate that I voted to rescind it. Probably a mistake in the end. And personally, and I said this committee meeting, that I would not vote, knowing the knowledge that I have about chickens, I would not vote in support of having chickens in the urban area. I stated, and I'll still state, get your eggs at the farmer's market, get Ontario eggs at your supermarket, or you can go for a drive in the country and get eggs from farmers out there. They have signs up, eggs for sale. Public Health did a bit of a turn. They weren't recommending urban chickens. Back last November, I believe it was showing in the report. They came 2 weeks ago to planning, and it was a bit of a turn. I don't know where all the information came from, if we've done our own research, if we just reached out to somebody else somewhere else. My understanding is we reached out to, I believe, another province. And can I ask that question through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Certainly. Who would you like to direct to?
Dr. Richardson.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. It was a report that came from BC that led us to look at a different direction, and since then we've been doing further research and following through, and that's the work that we have yet to finish.
Okay, if we're going to pursue this, I think we need to do more of our own research. We have to go to University of Guelph, we have to go to the chicken producers, the egg producers, and get research from that to educate not only ourselves but the people, an opportunity for people to learn from this. And as I stated to committee too, and I took a bit of a trashing of some of the emails that came in to make believe me for some of my comments. But true, chickens fly. Can you stop them from flying? Yes, you can clip their wings. Okay. Some people wouldn't want to do that, but you can do that. You need a fence. If you're going to have chickens in the coop, I'm hearing they want backyard chickens. They want chickens to be on the grass, to eat the grass and eat the bugs. They're going to fly out. As Council said, Councilor Ferguson, yeah, they'll get in somebody else's yard. The dog will kill them. Here we go. What do you do with the chickens when they expire, when they're done laying? What do you do with them? Where are they going to go? People don't want to kill them. That's what you have to do with them. You can kill them and make soup out of them. Some people want to do that. Where do they go? Do they get dumped on our door and we have to put up a hen pen somewhere in the city to keep these chickens? People are looking at us as pets. You've got 4 chickens, you're going to have a pet. I don't care, you're going to have a pet. What do you do with these chickens when they're spent? Another issue here too is no roosters. Well, let me tell you, you're gonna buy chicks, and if you're gonna get chicks from somebody else that's got chicks, and you don't know at that point in time, unless you're really good at sexing them, if you're getting hens or roosters. Start growing, they get a little comb on them, bigger than, the hen doesn't have a comb, on the roof of the, here, they get a comb, then you're gonna have roosters. What do you do with those then? When your kids are back there and saying, oh, look, Mom, and it's a rooster then, what are you gonna do with that? There's a whole lot of things here people need to know. And then they're not gonna dispose of them because now it's their pets, their chicken. So now you have a rooster in the backyard. Or you have to push it off to somebody else, take it to the country. Yeah, there's potential for disease. Rodents can be and will be an issue because there's going to be feed there. You're going to have mice, you're going to have rats, you're going to have flies, you're going to have skunks coming around. You are going to have raccoons coming around. Even in a coop, they'll be hanging around your yard because they'll smell the chickens. Potential for coyotes to come right back into town. It's all there. A lot of things that people need to know. And that's why I was pushing for this to be an education session when we come into the first quarter of 2012. I know it's going to cost money for a report. I still think it's a good idea. I know I will vote against urban chickens on the knowledge that I have. And with that, I'll end my speech. Thank you.
Councillor Duval.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I haven't seen or heard from too many people about putting chickens in their backyards or having them as neighbors. I have received one from my board, as you all got a copy of it today, asking to at least consider the report. And I thought about it in great detail. That I've always said nothing's ever small to anybody's complaint. But looking at the cost of this, so, and I heard Councillor Farr stating that we've already got 6 weeks, I believe, that you voted 6 weeks studying into this. So can I ask you, Mr. Chair, through you to staff, how much more time will we need to spend on this? Staff time.
Well, the motion to referral back is laid out quite concisely. Is the report back by the end of the first quarter of 2012, which I would assume by the end of March. That's my assumption, but in favor, whatever. That's the instructions, is it, Councillor McCaddy?
That's the original.
Right, yes.
So I guess my question is,
Can we just get a response?
Mr. Tippett, we're going to need more time. So both Dr. Richardson and ourselves are going to need till the third quarter to get all the information, make sure it's comprehensive.
Continues.
so is that third quarter?
Yes, that's what he said.
So that's a considerable amount of time, and I think for something that hasn't been passed, at least in front of me, that, hey, let's go and get pass a bylaw for chickens. There is so much in here, and in fact, I explained to you about the one email I got, but I have several phone calls, emails, that basically accuse not only me, but this council, we lost our marbles. Okay, for even considering this. This is more just about what we're talking about, having a few chickens in somebody's backyard. I mean, what about the apartment building owners? What about the condos? They're going to start wanting on the balconies because they don't have some land. I mean, that's what's happening here. And every time we make a movement, we put our foot in the door. And I'm telling you what will come next: goats, and then emus, ostriches. These organizations are going to push us and push us and push us to the limit of saying, what's wrong with this? We want to buy some of our own, or have some of our own chickens and have some of our own fresh eggs. But there's a lot of serious problems. And I happen to agree with a lot of my neighbors and people that I talk to that they're not interested. And for the one person, I dearly respect them for emailing me. I think the cost is just too high for them asking for a report when we all know where it's going. If we could go further, if you want an outcry for the people that are saying we don't want chickens in their backyards, I'm sure there'll be an outcry, and you'll be getting all those emails too. But right now, I don't think a lot of people that are saying that we're that serious, there's no way council is gonna allow this to happen. And if we did, I'm sure we're gonna hear from there, so. Cost-wise for a report, Mr. Chair, I cannot do it. And second, just because, having chickens and what can they do to diseases and having in your backyard, the nuisances, then the people will be coming in from the balconies, condo owners, we're gonna be getting it. Thank you.
Just before I go to Councillor McCaddy, just clarity on this. So if the motion is, so what happens with the bylaw when it's ultimately passed? What's the disposition? And I'm going to stay in the bridge time. Bridge time until the report comes back.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, with respect to urban chickens,
Yes.
the bylaw doesn't permit it silent. It's irrelevant with respect to the bylaw.
So it doesn't allow and it doesn't prohibit. Okay, thank you for the clarity. Councillor McCaddy, please. And I'd like to go with the question, please.
Mr. Chair, I think the message is that everything we do around this table, as best as we possibly can, should be evidence-based. Our decisions should be evidence-based. So although we have some feedback from the agricultural community, and we've heard from citizens on both sides of this, I believe the key for almost any issue that I'm familiar with is to get the information back in a proper staff report with a review of the issue, and then we make the decision. We're not making that decision tonight. We're not deciding on the bylaw tonight. We're deciding whether the report comes back to us. We're deciding whether we want to actually hear that information through a staff report. I'd like to suggest that it's important for us that we always be very vigilant that we don't let our ideologies or our own personal histories get in the way of information coming forward and then make a final decision. Of course, when we actually have the bylaw in front of us, we've got to decide on that bylaw, and everybody around here will decide on that. But to decide that they don't even want the information to come back in report format, I think that's an issue that not only on this item before us tonight, but on other issues is something we really need to be careful about. Dr. Richardson mentioned the BC study. It's called Raising Chickens in City Backyards, the Public Health Role. And just some of the authors here, the Public Health Agency of Canada, the Centre for Coastal Health, the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, University of Calgary, School of Population and Public Health, UBC, Environmental Health Services, BC Centre for Disease Control, National Collaborating Centre for Environmental Health. And there's an abstract here which I won't read, but it ends, the final sentence of this is, public health practitioners might approach this issue in a manner analogous to concerns over keeping domestic pets. So it identifies all the different issues that could occur with public health, and they're suggesting it perhaps is not that much different than dogs and cats. So this paper is available, and it's peer-reviewed from the Journal of Community Health that Dr. Richardson referred to. I think other councils have mentioned that perhaps Hamilton or parts of Hamilton are not ready for urban chickens. I can tell you, Ward 1 and 2 in particular, a good chunk of the lower city where we've got a lot of support for this in terms of petitions. I think they are ready. So one of the options may be to consider a pilot project in Ward 1, for example, Ward 1 and 2, where a lot of the support is coming from. So there's different ways to tackle this. And I just, in closing, Mr. Chair, I want to promise Councilor Pasuda we won't bring up urban pigs. Do pigs fly might be a question. They don't, which would be a benefit in this case. They don't fly, so that wouldn't be a problem over the fence. But nonetheless, no intention to take this any further than chickens. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Pigs don't fly if you clip their wings, right? Are we ready to deal with this issue finally? So we have the motion before you. It's a three-parter before us on the bottom of page 4, top of page 5. All those in favor? Opposed? Standard recording vote? Okay, called by Councillor McCaddy. The motion is to have staff report back by the end of the first quarter of 2012, and it's very comprehensive, bottom of pages 4 and 5. Okay?
Deputy Mayor Powers, Councillors Jackson, Collins, Marullo, Morelli, Farr, McCaddy, Johnson, Pasuda, and Partridge.
Those opposed?
Mayor Bertino, Councilors Whitehead, Duval, Clark, Pearson, and Ferguson.
Madam Clerk, please. Motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Clark, could I have a motion on the
Just, if a couple of the city slickers would like to go out and do a Billy Crystal and want a chicken run, I try to set it up, see who will help pluck chickens one night, just get a feel.
Councillor Clark, could I have a motion on the report, please?
I just want to offer that up, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Maria Pearson, that the first report of the planning committee be adopted and the information section received, and I guess it will be as amended.
Great. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I can see the Spectator editorial cartoon, so I'll probably already frame for tomorrow and things such as that. I mean, Noah's Ark had nothing on this. The Public Works Committee presents its first report for 2012 and respectfully recommends item 1, 2,